Howdy, everyone. Welcome to Tilson Live. It is Tuesday. It's 2 o'clock Central Time. And we are live on Facebook, live on YouTube, probably still live on Vimeo, I think. I'm not sure. But for sure, live on Facebook, live on YouTube. And I'm Eric Allerid, part of the fourth generation of the Tilson family, joined, as I am each and every week, by Dawn Dantzler, Vice President of Marketing and Customer Experience for Tilson Homes. Hello, Dawn.
Hey, Eric. How's it going?
It is going swimmingly. We have we are in full bloom of the flowers and the things and the Zyrtec, and it's a wonderful time in Texas. It is beautiful. We got some rain last week, much needed for many parts of the state, so that was pretty awesome, which has left us with the muddy job sites. So bear with us, folks. We're in somewhat of the ugly duckling phase of some of these, and that's to be expected. That's all part of the journey, part of the fun. Your kids can do their handprints all over the place if they like to right now. It's a free-for-all of hand printing. So do that. But yeah, so we are here. It is Tuesday. It's 2 o'clock. It's Tilson Live. We're here to answer each and every one of your questions with regards to building a home on your land in rural Texas. Really anywhere in Texas, pretty much. Obviously, we specialize in rural areas. That's what we've been doing for the better part of a century. Going on 91 years now, but jump in, tell us where you're watching from, tell us where you're building, tell us what part of the process that you're in, and kind of what brings you here today. What are we here to talk about, hear about today? We want to get your questions answered. We want to hear your updates, of course, where you are in the process, but jump in, tell us howdy, tell us where you're watching from, tell us where you're building, and then Dawn's going to tell us what we're going to talk about today, and we have a few special announcements. We're going to say at the beginning and at the end because apparently not everybody gets here at the same time. It's like, it's I don't know, but that's fine. That's okay. It's okay. So, Dawn, what in the world's going on at Tilson Live today?
So we specifically were prepared to talk about land prep today. So we're going to talk about the main difference between building on your land and building in a regular kind of subdivision community, kind of the planned out development, and that is that it's your land. So there's a lot of things that need to be done before we can actually put a home on it. And in a traditional planned community like that, a lot of that stuff's done ahead of time. So if you're new to building on your land, it's all this stuff that happened before you even picked out your house in your master plan community. So we're gonna kind of talk about how we navigate through all of those things with you.
Yeah, this is the part of the process, folks, when y'all are asking us what do you mean it takes 12 to 14 to 18 months to build? We're not talking about necessarily to build, although there are some areas that is the case. But when we're giving you a time frame, this part that we're going to talk about today that is critically important is a large part of that time frame. Because when you're building a home on your land, you are developing that raw piece of property, and then you're constructing a home. The part we're talking about today is that developing that piece of property. Like Don said, most of the places we build, there are no utilities there. There's no site access. The lot's not cleared. It has never been touched by human hands, predominantly speaking. So this is the part of when we're giving you a time frame, and maybe other builders are giving you a shorter time frame. They're probably not talking about this part. They're leaving this part out, either assuming it's done or assuming that it must be done. When we're giving you a time frame, one of our offices or on this show here, we're talking about the whole thing. So developing that property is a big part of it. Where in developments, municipalities, things like that, this process can take years of what they refer to as entitlements. Which simply is getting the land zoned and platted and all the lots cut in and all that kind of stuff before you start construction, all of which is done before you ever walk in that sales trailer in Happy Acres. Yep. Shout out to Do You Convert for using your subdivision, Happy Acres.
Your fake subdivision.
But yeah, so jump in, tell us where you're watching from, where you're building, part of the process that you're in. Ask all of the questions. We will answer them as we go. And then we're going to get into this presentation and tell you guys everything you need to know about developing a piece of property, getting it ready to build a home on your land.
But first, we said that we were going to share. We do have the Behind the Sheetrock scheduled for the Polidoro. So we do have that.
Get your phones out.
Get your phones out if you want to QR code it. We can also drop a link.
Dawn brought a new toy today.
Brought a new toy. Ooh, it glowed. What was that?
Toys.
Ooh, new toys. So this is the link to get you registered for that session. Jeff Waite, the VP of Construction for the area, is going to be the one actually doing the presentation and taking you around the Polidoro model and showing you everything. Oh, somebody scanned it. That's why it's lighting up. Interesting.
I wasn't going to say that.
I love new toys. But anyway, he's the one.
Can you tell we might not be Gen Z?
But
you're not
we're
up to date on technology.
2 sessions that day. He's going to take you around, show you everything, talk about how we do our framing, why we do things the way that we do, so you can see everything that's behind the walls before we make the house all pretty. You can see where the quality really is, which is in that framing and that foundation and the real bones of the home, or where quality is truly seen. So this can get you registered for that. You have your choice between 11 a.m. or 2 p.m. To come out and see it. So we're just very excited to show you what we've got so far.
It's going to be thrilling. Again, we'll have several construction folks on site, as a matter of fact, along with our design team and some other folks. So yeah, show up. We want to answer all your questions. Again, we want to show you the quality that's behind the scenes. We want to show you the installation, show you the framing, tell you why we do the things that we do. Because builders do things a little bit differently. So
absolutely. All right. Very cool. Let's go ahead. We've got several people. I guess I'll try and see if I can leave it up while we kind of check in with everybody.
Yeah.
Can't. All right.
Yeah,
so we've got Will coming. Of course not. We got Will coming in from Klondike. Howdy, Will. We got Lisa. Howdy from Fort Worth. We are TBD no more. Yay!
All right.
Build a Magnolia Bee in Bandera, and stakeout is in 1 week. Awesome.
Nice.
That's exciting. We got Joylene. Hi. Hey there.
Howdy.
We've got Teresa. Howdy from Amarillo. We've got Michelle. Hey there, watching from Canyon Lake. Hey, Michelle.
Oh, nice.
We've got Matt tuning in from Oregon. Hey, Matt. Good to see
Matt.
you. We have James, who has a tentative closing on Friday. Awesome.
All right, James. Congratulations.
We've got Janet. Howdy from sunny Grayson County. Our live oak is getting very close to complete. Awesome.
Beautiful.
I loved the rainbow picture that you sent us of your house.
Thank you for sharing that.
We got Laura and Andy watching from Houston, building in Bridal Gate in Bandera. Stakeout meeting next Tuesday. Awesome.
You're leaving Houston and moving to Bandera? Who does that? Well, I mean,
everyone
can get out of Houston. That's it. Yeah.
At least the leaving Houston part, where they go, TBD. Dustin, good afternoon. Looking to build in Somerset. Currently working with Kim and Bernie. Looking to get more information about utilities and site prep. Awesome. You've come to the right place.
You're at the right place, and we're going to dig into it deep. No pun intended. No pun intended.
Michelle is saying we're hoping to build in Spring Branch and Serenity Oaks. Looking at the bare floor plan. Awesome.
Very nice.
Janet is asking, when does walkthrough happen? How does it work? And how long does it typically take for closing to be scheduled after that?
Great question, Janet. Okay, so walkthrough will typically happen after the builder is depends on if there's any things he's waiting on, like long lead time stuff. He may go ahead and schedule it. We do like to try and do it after pretty well everything in the house is ready to go. You know, ACs are started up, or heaters and all that stuff's tested. And ideally, we'd like for it to be cleaned, although that's not always 100% the case. Depends on your schedule, his schedule, other buyer, your husband's schedule, that kind of thing. The way it works is they truly walk you through the home, try to do some type of orientation with you on thermostats and air filters and all that kind of good stuff, hose bibs and vacuum breakers and the breaker boxes and where all that stuff's located, arc faults and how and why they work and all that kind of good stuff. Weep holes, inside, outside the house, soffit venting, if there is any, probably not in your neck of the woods, but that's how it works. It's truly a orientation, and then obviously an opportunity to, hey, we need this touched up, we need that touched up. Shouldn't be a whole lot. We really shoot for not a ton of things on that, but inevitably they'll ask you to sign an iPad probably, which is going to have, if there are any outstanding items, they'll be on there so that you and us both have the same set of documentation of what's still outstanding. And then after that, it depends on what all's on that punch list, which is the list that's yielded after the walkthrough. So if there's not a whole bunch of items, sometimes they can schedule it in, maybe a week or maybe a little more than that, 10 days. If there's a whole bunch of items, they may not schedule it until you may have to do another kind of a mini walk. So it's varied a little bit around the state just because of availability of things and people, but that's pretty much how it works, broadly speaking.
Okay, awesome. We've got Clay and Kay from Brown County early in the process to begin with a Gonzalez C build. Awesome.
Oh, very cool. Beautiful. Thanks for joining us, Clayton.
We've got John from LaGrange, Texas. We close on a lot very soon. Met with Michael and Brian a few weeks ago and walked through the canyon. Beautiful home. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for going to make the trip too.
Yeah, we've got Chris watching in Fort Worth, building at PK. Should have a roof Friday. If that occurs, I'll have 2 roofs in 1 week, as I just got a roof on my current house yesterday.
Oh, congratulations!
All right, maybe like the shingle company has a punch card or something for you.
Yeah, right. This guy's a subject matter expert on roofs. Suddenly,
Good
for him.
We've got Brad giving a shout out to our designer Danny in the Angleton office. She's been great assisting us designing what started out as a Brazoria. Awesome.
Oh, cool. All right.
Very cool.
Thanks, Brad.
We've got Neil. Hello from Virginia Beach, building in Toller. Awesome.
Howdy, Neil. Welcome back.
All right. And Will is already checking out. I have to go. Wanted to check in. Got 9 raised beds for the garden done. Just got to get 3 of them planted. Awesome.
All right. Well, I do want to know what you're planting, Will. So if you get the chance to get back, I want to hear what you're planting.
Absolutely. And then we've got Patty, Washington County near Brenham. The foundation is poured. Awesome.
Very cool. See, I garden vicariously, Dawn, through other people. I don't garden myself.
Same. I have a black thumb, so
I will kill it.
The only things I grow on accident. Apparently, spearmint you cannot kill if you ever start it. Just so you know, it spreads and it won't die. I've been trying.
That's interesting. We threw, I will say, potatoes set in the pantry for too long and started growing things off of them. This has happened probably only to me, I'm sure, in my house. And so we took those things and we just threw them in 5-gallon buckets with dirt, and now we have potato plants, I guess.
Oh, okay.
And so anyway, we'll see how that goes. I mean, if they'll grow in our pantry completely unattended, surely they'll grow in dirt.
One would think.
We're going to find out. Anyway, let's get into this. Let's start developing land. Guys, keep putting your questions into the chat. Questions, comments, any updates you want to give us. We want to be sure that you get everything out of this that you could possibly need to help you understand this process and to make good decisions. That's what this is all about. So talk a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today, and then I'll turn it over to Dawn to take us through some of these documentations. But obviously, we are going to be talking about getting that land prepared. So utilities, site access, all that good kind of stuff. First of all, a little bit of people may not have seen us before. I don't know. It's possible. But if you're interested in building a home on your land somewhere in Texas, you have come to the right place, because that's all we do. We're a one-trick pony. We don't do any production subdivision or any of that kind of stuff. We don't buy property and develop it. We develop your property or help you do so. So we've been here for, like I said, 91 years, 4 generations. We've built over 40,000. Probably that's a very conservative number. Records weren't the best from the 30s to the 50s. And then roughly right now, about 10 families a week. Actually, it's more like 12 families a week are moving into a Tilson home. So we do this a lot. We feel like we have quite a bit of knowledge in this particular arena. What in the world is built on your lot anyway? It doesn't necessarily mean just a small city lot. In fact, it usually doesn't. Land, farm and ranch, maybe you're building a home to retire in. You bought this property 6-7 years ago, and this is where you're planning to leave Houston and move to Bridlegate in Bandera. Or maybe it's a lake property. And so anyway, it's basically having the home that you want built on your site that you chose. Now, to make that happen, there are some things that need to happen before all this. So pre-construction, again, when we're talking about our total time frame, we're talking the pre-construction phase all the way through completion and really warranty. So, but in the pre-construction, there's quite a bit that goes on. It's okay. We're here to help every step of the way. The other thing is every county and utility company is different. I mean, we love Texas being a deregulated state. That's awesome for business. That's great. One of the cons to that is every little kingdom is its own kingdom. Every county is its own kingdom. Every city is its own kingdom. Every subdivision is its own kingdom. And every utility company is a monopoly that does what they want to do. So there's a little bit of wrangling and navigating that has to go on, but we're here to help. You're going to need a 911 address that's issued by the county or the Office of Emergency Management. And then you got utility setups that have to be done. Some we can do, some you'll have to do. Same thing with your permit applications. And then there could be a host of other responsibilities, all of which, again, we are here to help you with and make sure you don't get tripped up or stopped. So we can help. But before you build, these are things that must happen and you want to have squared away, because these are items that could really trip you up upon completion or certainly at closings. There's some important documents Don's going to talk about: utilities and site access, and then site plan and preparation. So Don, please take us through the paperwork.
All right, so the paperwork. So they're going to fall into 3 general buckets. You're going to want to have your deed and title insurance to prove that you own the property and that the property is protecting your ownership. We're going to want to see location and the layout, and then if there are any deed restrictions, HOA guidelines, all of that good stuff, that's just giving us all the requirements for building on your land. So then the next slide kind of goes into a little bit more talking about the deed. So your deed to your property is your proof of your ownership, and to be a valid deed, it's going to need to list the grantor, who is the seller, and the grantee, so the buyer. It will contain the property description, so it's going to have the legal description of the property. Potentially, it's going to list the agreed upon sales price, but doesn't necessarily have to have that, but generally it is in there. The seller's signature on this has to be notarized, that they are actually giving you ownership of this property. And in order for it to be valid, it must be recorded county, otherwise it never happened. So this is just the documentation that you're going to need to bring in, and it's going to show you the document numbers and all of that kind of stuff. Title insurance. We always advise when you are purchasing a piece of property or a piece of property is being transferred into your name, always get a title policy, even if it's a present, if it's a gift from your grandma, because you just don't know what has happened in the history of ownership of this property. What that's going to do is it guarantees the chain of ownership. So it's going to say they will go back and check to make sure that there are no pre-existing liens, no problems with transfer of ownership from one owner to another, and make sure that you do have a clear title. This helps you to avoid things like a disputed lien and unknown judgment, extra inheritees who should have had rights to this property or signed off on it. All of that. So just a good thing to protect yourself and make sure that you're going to own this property free and clear. So request that from your title company as soon as any earnest money contract is signed. Make sure that you get them to open title and get the insurance going.
And one other point here is if like Don was saying, if someone is deeding you, they're gifting you some property, your parents or grandparents or sister, brother-in-law, you can still go to the title company and actually have them do all of the documentation.
Right.
Please don't go to LegalZoom. Please don't go to your cousin's best friend's roommate who's an attorney, who's a criminal defense attorney and does it. Like, go to a title company. They do this every day. They're typically owned by attorneys. They're typically real estate attorneys. They specialize in this stuff. Spend a little bit of money. It's worth it in the long run to be sure, like Don was saying, you don't get tripped up on something like this. So do it at a title company. If you need recommendations on title companies, call us and we can walk you through that.
Your boundary survey. So this is going to be a drawing of the property, which you're also going to want to make sure is actually active on the property, is that you can find all of those corner pins that are listed on the survey. So you want to make sure you find them and they're flagged. So we know where all of those lines are. And your survey is going to show you both the actual boundaries of your property and then some, those are the solid lines on here. And then it'll also show you some dotted lines. And what those dotted lines are indicating are things like easements and setbacks. So an easement is when somebody else owns the right to use that part of the property for something. So like a utility company might have the rights to put power lines through there, and it's granting them the right to maintain power lines are and have access to the property to do any types of repairs and things like that. You'll see water companies will have it too. There might be some gas company. Those types of things are considered an easement. Setbacks are showing how far away from the road or far from the boundary of the property you are allowed to build. So there are often required setbacks, and then also building lines. So where you are allowed to build. So even though you own the entire property, you're responsible for taking care of the entire property. There's only certain areas of the property where you're allowed to put a permanent structure in place. And all of those should be shown on your boundary survey. The other thing it's going to do is give all of the dimensions for the property. In most cases, it should also show the flood information. So what flood zone is the property located in. And it should always have a registered professional land surveyor seal and signature on it for it to be a valid survey. So just showing that this was actually done by a professional.
So let's talk permanent structure, Dawn. What are we talking about when we talking about permanent structure can't be over these building lines or these setbacks? What does that include typically?
Anything you can't move. So your house, your in-ground swimming pool would be considered a permanent structure. Usually they're not referring to things like a shed or a fence or something like that that could be moved out of the way. But anything that is, pretty permanent, that's not able to be lifted up and moved away, they're going to say, no, no, no. In some cases you could build something like that on an easement, but just understand that if the power company needs to, they have the right to knock that sucker down. And do some demolition for you.
Yeah, but your driveway, it can be over the build line.
Mm-hmm.
Typically your fence, like she's saying, it can be over but these they'll be spelled out in your deed restrictions, which we're going to talk about next.
Yep. Next, deed restrictions and covenants. This is going to vary specifically based to exactly where your property is. So it could be, these are usually decided when the community is formed. And it's going to state, it's usually some home design requirements. It's going to state those setbacks that we were talking about. But things that we've seen that might be in these include, minimum square footage of the home. If you're dealing with a lakefront property, it's not uncommon to see a maximum height because they don't want your house being so tall that it eliminates someone else's lake view. They are going to stipulate things like required materials. So how much can be siding? What type of siding can be used? Is there a required percentage of masonry? What type of roofing? Those types of things. There may be garage requirements. Which direction do the garage doors have to face? How many bays can there be? Does it have to be attached? Can it be detached? How does it have to look compared to the home? And then in some place that has an architectural review committee, they're going to have your plan approval guidelines. So here are the things that need to be done. There may also be some requirements for construction. We've seen, hours of when construction can happen, how long construction can take. Does the community require the builder to have a dumpster? Are there any deposits? We're also starting to see in communities that have been around for a little while longer, actual weight limits on the trucks that can come in. So that's going to impact how long it takes to pour your foundation. How many truckloads do we have to bring in and things like that. So it's important to find the copies of those. You should have gotten it when you purchased the property. And anybody who's still in that process, please, 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 please get a copy of it and actually read it, because you are agreeing to all of these things by buying the property. And after that, once you've purchased it, you get what you get. You had the opportunity to refuse. Yep. So it's one of those, you're not going to win that battle later of being like, no, I don't like this. You bought it.
Yeah, she's right. By buying it, you are de facto agreeing to these restrictions and to uphold them. And it doesn't matter. Well, I saw a house around the corner, didn't have any of that.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, does not matter. So and deed restrictions can change, but certainly POA boards change, property association, the board of directors will change. Mm-hmm. Architecture control committees will change. So it could be subjective sometimes. That can be frustrating. And somebody's brother-in-law may have let something slide that they're not letting slide with you.
And anyway, all of these things are done with the intent of protecting, property values and having a community that fits together and all of that. But just make sure you're in agreement with whatever they say. Great
advice. So before we get into these, we do have a couple of questions and statements that have popped up. So let's answer some questions, then we'll get into utilities. Very exciting.
Yes. We got Diana building a San Gabriel C in Coryell County. We have the body of the house almost dried in. Awesome.
Cool. Great, Diana. Thank you for sharing.
And then the farm report from Will. He's doing tomatoes, peppers, onions, lettuce. Hopefully we'll get squash, cucumbers, zucchini, and melons also.
Good grief. Okay. I think I could do...
I'm sure he knows, but plant the squash, the cucumber, the zucchini, and the melons in different beds, because the bees like to cross-pollinate, and then you end up with all cucumber.
I want spicy squash. So how do I get the peppers with the squash? That's what we need.
I don't know that they do that. I don't know. Maybe somebody else
Somebody on
knows.
this board knows.
Do peppers cross-pollinate? I know for sure squash, cucumbers, zucchinis, and melons will, because we had a watermelon that tasted like cucumbers, and then I quit gardening.
We're done.
Because that was just wrong. It's too much work for that. Diana says, Hunter is being very patient with all of our on-site questions. Oh, that's good
Great to hear, Diana. Thanks for sharing that.
We've got Al. Hello, everyone. We are building a LaPorte in Burnett County. We chose not to include a soft water loop inside our home. What are our options for saltwater discharge?
Okay, so you don't, if I'm understanding this right, you didn't rough in for a water softener. So what will have to happen is they'll have to discharge. They can come in after the fact and add a water softener. And what will typically happen is wherever they put it, it'll have to come out. You'll see a pipe that comes out because it has to have a drain. What he's saying is when you're using a water softener, you see the salt in bags that you buy at your big box store or at your grocery store, kind of at the front when you're leaving. Mm-hmm. You take that rock salt and you pour it in this thing, and that's how it softens. It's like a water filter, but it sends it through that and softens the water. It has to discharge that water, and it cannot discharge into a septic or sewer system. So it's going to come out the side or back of your house, and you have to build kind of like a rock drain bed, sort of, is what I have typically seen envisioned. Is particularly in Burnett County, it's pretty easy to do. There's a lot of rock laying around, so get you some rock delivered out there, and get you an area that doesn't drain to the rest of your yard, because it will kill the grass. If you're growing grass. So if you're in Burnett County, I wouldn't, but that's to each his own.
Grow more rock.
So yeah, that's typically what I've seen done, Al, is it comes out the side of the home, probably somewhere you're not too, but if you'll notice, we have other places where pipes come out of the house, out of the stone, brick, or siding. Typically it's like the pop-off valve for your water heater, for instance. So there's a discharge for that coming out of wherever your water heater is. Whether it's the attic or if it's down in the garage or utility area, there's a place where that's coming out. I've seen them put them there, but it's going to be very close to where water comes into your home, because if you're using a water softener, it needs to come to the water softener first before it goes to the water heater and then distributed to the rest of the home. One caveat to think about now, since it's not part of when we rough in for a water softener, we isolate the outside hose bibs, the water spigots on the outside. We isolate those so that they are still on the hard water. We don't put those on the soft water, because in case you're watering your grass with them, or watering your plants, watering your cucumbers or melons or whatever, you're not watering them with soft or salt water. You won't have that option at this point. So just be mindful that those outside water spigots are on soft water when you're doing it after the fact. So do not water your plants or your grass with an oscillating sprinkler or anything like that comes from the hose bib, a water spigot, because they will be on the same soft water as the rest of the home.
Okay, good to know. We got Lisa. She wants us to know that you also moved from DFW to Bridlegate.
Man, Bridlegate.
Not just Houston.
Getting descended upon.
We got Michelle asking, is there a pre-construction checklist that can be provided for us, either picked up at a design center or emailed to us, to make sure we have everything ready to go? Yes, there is. So Michelle, if you can message me, I can make sure that I email that over to you so you can get it. So yeah, we have a preliminary list, and then you'll also get a second list at your stakeout meeting. When you meet with them, they'll give you a list specific to your property of things that need to be done. But then there's
a broad kind of RSTLNE that covers everything, and then there is a whole bunch of other things that could be specific to your property. So Great question.
We've got Matt saying, we love your website with the customizable floor plans and base pricing clearly displayed. As a suggestion, having all the elevations viewable rather than just the front would be very helpful. Okay, thank you. That's good feedback.
I agree, Matt from Portland. Thank you.
Yes. We've got Brett. How old does a survey have to be? Is there a limit?
Okay, so I think what he's asking.
I think you mean how old can it be?
Yeah. Right, how old can it be, or how new does it have to be? Yeah. So kind of a mixed bag, Brett. If nothing has changed on the property, like if no home's been built, outbuilding, mobile home, well, septic, easement, anything like that, and if nothing has changed, and that matches up with the title, which we're going to do. The title company will match up the survey to make sure nothing has changed.
And you can still find the corner pins.
It's the caveat. Yeah. As long as we can still find some, so what, at the very least, you might have to have a surveyor come out and flag the corners, reflag the corners, so that, because sometimes they can be very, very difficult to find after years and years and years and years of dirt and erosion and grass and sod and rain and all the things that happen.
Right.
If anything has changed, we need to have a new survey. Like if you've dedicated an easement to a power company to come through to put power poles or underground power, if a highway has widened or something like county road or state highway has widened and they've taken, that needs to be done. If a home has been built or demolished or removed, it would need to be updated. So bring it to us. Let us take a look at it. Let us take a look at it with the title commitment. And if everything that shows up on the title commitment can also be seen on the survey, we're going to be good.
Okay.
So
perfect. Carol is asking, I need a house and an 1,100 square foot guest house. Can we get the casita now, even though it says coming soon? Also, can you build the guest house first? Yes, the casita plan is actually available. What's coming soon is the model that we have of it in Waco, which is, it's almost done. It has cabinets and countertops and it's getting flooring and all of that. But yeah, you can get the casita now. So it comes standard as a 1-bedroom, but you can also have all these other options on it. So absolutely. We have Jody. We have 2 acres in LaGrange. I'm going to be reaching out soon. Utilities are already in place minus septic. Awesome. You're ahead of the game.
Control, Jody.
Faith is checking in. Sounds like Will is going to have some organic veggies for salsa, and just says howdy from the Tilson OSC team. Awesome.
Howdy, Faith.
Jody says the area that I'm going to build has a few trees. Do I need to have them dozed down, or will y'all do that?
Okay, so we will not. Our price you see on the website, like what Britt was talking about a while ago, does not include removal of trees. We're going to talk about that here in a second too, but it doesn't include that removal. If you are going to go ahead and we can bid to have it done, so we can still take care of it. If you have the equipment to remove them, go ahead and get them removed. Just be sure that you remove the root ball and all. So it needs to all be gone. So don't just cut it off at the ground and call it good. The engineer is not going to be cool with that, because that root ball will decay. Right? It's dead effectively at that point, right. And it will decay and it will form a cavity underneath the foundation. That root ball will eventually, over years, rot away, and there'll be a void down there. So go ahead and whatever equipment you have, if you have equipment to do that, to get it removed, either some type of a backhoe or track hoe, skid steer, something that can get that roots and all out of there. That is what's going to need to be done. So if you want to wait for us to come out there and do it, we can do that. We can get you pricing on that. Or if you have the equipment, get it out of there.
Okay. Lisa is asking, how long is title policy good for? I purchased a lot in 2016, so would title policy from that purchase be sufficient?
Okay, so as long they're sufficient as long as nothing has changed. So if you haven't encumbered if no one's done any work on the property, or same thing like I said earlier, if you haven't dedicated any easements, if nothing has changed since 2016, that title policy is still good. Now, that being said, the title commitment we're pulling, it doesn't cost anything, so there's not going to be like any kind of cost savings. And then when you close, if you're getting a mortgage, if you're buying the home with a mortgage, and when you get to closing, they're not going to accept that title. Typically, they'll only kind of reward the price of that if it's within a year. So if it's been that long, they're still going to require a mortgagee's policy on the property whenever you do the improvement. So when you build the new home, so there probably still will be a title policy at the end, but it'll be for the whole mortgage amount. So right now your title policy insures you for the amount of the land value. The title policy you'll get whenever you get to closing on the new home will be for the mortgage, the entire mortgage value, or replacement value, really. So good question.
Yes, but you should be covered for anything that happened to the property prior.
So shall we do utilities? Oh, we're still doing it.
We still got Chris says, that makes me glad Darla had us get the soft water set up in the plans.
There you go. Yeah.
Brad is asking, are timelines trending down in the Hill Country, particular Bell County?
They are actually. Yeah, we are seeing timelines come get flattened out a little bit. It's still not down to where we want it to be, but yeah, we're pressing hard to get those build times and lead times down. There's really just a few pockets. Probably still Burnett, Gillespie, and maybe Kerr County, that area out there.
Okay.
So.
Al on his water softener says, yes, the softener will be in the well house. And I was told to use a dry well. We will have a bypass valve installed to water any plants we have. Thank you for your advice.
Great. Yeah, that's a perfect setup.
And then we have Earl checking in, joined late, but in Milam County, foundation was poured last week. Framing set to start this week. Hoping for just another 6 months before being able to move in. Awesome.
Let's go.
All right. Let's talk about utilities. Y'all keep putting your questions in and we'll make sure to answer them.
Yeah, we will answer all the questions. If it's about paperwork, great. If it's about utilities, let's get after it. So we're going to talk about utilities and probably parlay on into actual site and access and all that stuff. So we're talking about power, we're talking about water, septic, so all the things that make a house livable, where it's not just a container sitting out there. It's not a storage
all the things
building.
That make it a house and not a shed.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, and guys, for caveat, this is going to vary across the state pretty widely. Like we talked about before, we love our Texas being independent. We love our Texas being non-regulated. We love that. We don't like being told what to do as Texans. It comes with a cost, and that cost is every utility company and county gets to do kind of whatever they want to do.
They make their own
There
rules.
are a few governing things that like the Public Utility Commission has a say in, but apart from that, whatever they tell you has to be done, that's what's going to have to be done. You don't get to do your own thing with a power company. So what we've got here is a couple of different examples of bringing power to a site. So I'm going to run through. So this is a temporary pole. So we're going to provide the temporary pole. This is
or you'll hear us call it a T-pole.
Yep, T-pole. This is one way it might look. In this particular case, the actual power is coming in from way back here in the back. You can see a transformer on a little bit taller pole. And then this particular customer has opted to do it overhead and by the pole. And so the house is going to be here somewhere, probably about where it says the word power. And then we've set up a temporary pole that has a couple of plugs on it. The power company's put a meter inside of our meter can, and we've kind of spooled up this wire and they've hooked it up. So this is a hot, ready to go temporary pole for overhead power. The one next to it is what we're seeing a lot in the hill country. Any of you guys out there messing with Pedernales Electric Co-op, PEC? This is something that you can probably anticipate seeing. They like this rack system. And by they like it, I mean they like for us or you to have someone build it for them. That's what they like it means. So this is typically built by our electrician or your electrician. They have to build this rack system. So it's truly like it's two poles set in concrete. They build it's kind of a commercial looking setup, but this is what PEC is after. This is for an underground. So you can see the power coming in. Actually, it comes in on this side from the meter, and then this is going out to the house from here. You got a little plug here, service plug to work off of. But this is a very typical hill country Pedernales Electric Co-op setup and others. So next to that, so if you hear me use the word rack system or power rack, this is what they're talking about. Over here, we got a different kind of system. So this is an overhead power coming in. So there's power poles coming down an easement, and then it comes to underground to this pedestal. So this is actually, I can tell you, this is Mid-South Electric Co-op. So they set up a pedestal here. It's got a plug on either side. In this situation and in this situation next to it, we wouldn't need a temporary pole, a T-pole of any kind, because the co-op themselves are putting power on the sides of these pedestals. I love both these setups. And then it'll come off underground from here going to the customer's home. And then this final one over here is what PEC will refer to sometimes as a member-owned pole. So again, they come in, it's overhead power. And that's where you see kind of a weatherhead here. Weatherhead is kind of this eyeball-shaped thing at the top of a pole. That power comes down to a meter can into a box that's got breakers on it. So the breaker box can either be here or it can be on the house. But most of the time, the power company is going to say, we want it here. And then the power goes to the house. So again, different setups that go around the state. We help you navigate this, okay? But it can be a bit of a struggle. I recommend meeting the power company out on site as early in the process as possible. either just before, maybe just after we've done our stakeout with you, our site evaluation. And if they tell you something different than what we've told you, that's okay. Don't panic. It's not the end of the world, and it's totally normal. For there to be a little bit of a disconnect and until we figure out how they want it done. But ultimately, they get the say of how they're going to bring power onto your property. Some are more flexible than others. Some are about as flexible as the concrete going into the ground here. There's no flexibility. So don't let it set
We
you
get to have
down.
opinions and feelings, but we don't really get to change what they say.
Right. Is exactly right. So that's power. If you got questions, let us know or drop them into the chat. We could absolutely help you with that. Next, you're going to have water of some sort. So you're either going to come from a water well, like our friend Al, or you're going to have a water meter, some type of a public. It could either be actual city water, or it could be some type of a community water that has a well somewhere offsite, and they're running water lines and meters to the various sites. So, if you need to drill a well, it's going to be shared with another, maybe a family member that's already on site. There's stipulations for that, and we can help you with those. But obviously, the well is going to have power too. So, I almost said as well, Don. I almost said the well needs power as well. But the English language is just
silly.
It's too much. It's too much. It really is. If you are going to have water at the site from either community water or a city, there will be a tap fee of some sort that you have to pay to tap in. They typically offer them in different sizes, 5/8, 3/4, sometimes as big as 1 inch. So I just, it depends. You don't need 1 inch necessarily unless you're doing significant amount of irrigation, which I don't know why you'd want to do that. Let's go with the natural things that grow in the area. You don't have to pay to water them. 5/8 might be a little on the tight side. 3/4 is a good size. 5/8 is big enough to service a house. It's no problem. It also depends on how far you're going. So if you have questions about that, let us know, because that can change. If you're going a long, long way, I'd opt for a larger diameter pipe for sure.
Okay.
Then the next is how we're going to deal with the water once it goes through the house and goes out of the house. How do we deal with the wastewater? The state has a lot to say about this. They have opinions about what you do with your wastewater, as they should. This is governed by the TCEQ, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. But either going to be on a sewer system. A few of you who watch, very, very few, like maybe 8 or 9% of you. The other 91, 92% of you that watch our show, you're going to be on a septic system, OSSF, an on-site sewage facility. It's its own little miniature sewage treatment plant that is specific to your home. So that's what you're seeing in this bottom picture here. This is an example of an on-site sewage facility that actually has compartments. So there's 3 chambers inside this gigantic concrete massive thing. For scale, this thing's probably 5 feet tall and probably 12 or 15 feet long, and it's probably 5 feet wide as well. Thereabouts, pretty close. And it has 3 chambers. You got a solids chamber that the first wastewater goes into from out of the house. You have a treatment chamber, which is where the aerobic, they got a compressor going, and it's aerating. It's like the aerobic system. And then the last chamber is the pump tank. It passes through some type of a chlorinator, either chlorine tablets or liquid chlorinator, where that wastewater is treated. And then it goes out to spray heads or to some type of a drip irrigation system, depending on what it's been designed for you. And then the water is distributed onto the property. So you have to have a certain amount of square footage of area for it to leach onto. You can still do conventional systems in places. Don't let anybody tell you that it's impossible. It's not easy, but it is still a possibility. It's still legal in Texas to do a conventional, which is the old field lines, gravity-driven conventional septic system that's still allowed. But predominantly what we're seeing in 90% of cases is the aerobic system of some sort, either a surface application, which is your spray heads, or a drip application if you're close to some type of other body of water, or if you have really, really just not suitable soil. You will have to have a permit for these, no matter what. Even if a county doesn't have a building permit, and some do not, they're all going to have some type of a septic permit, some type of an on-site sewage facility permit. You have to let them know what your plan is to get rid of the wastewater. That's a big deal. And water wells come into play. Your water well, neighbors' water wells, and that can restrict where all you can put the septic system or spray heads or any of that kind of stuff. And there's rules and regulations of how close it can be to the house, how close the spray heads can be to your house, to your property line, to your neighbor's well, to your well. We can help you through all of that stuff. So, and then if you're going to have gas, a lot of our customers, in fact, most of them are totally electric these days. But we do still have some that opt for gas. If you do have natural gas available in some type of acreage community or in a city, cool. Let's opt for it and go do that. If not, and you still want some sort of gas to your house, whether it's to your cooktop or your water heaters or furnaces, fireplaces, you're going to need to put in some type of an LP tank. And it can either be above ground or it can be below ground. They can be bought or they can be rented. You can buy new ones or you can buy refurbished ones. There's a lot of options out there for tank. You can paint them the picture of a cow if you want to. I've seen people paint them all kinds of weird things. Pink as a pig, there's all kinds of things you'll do. But and there's strategies around when you want to buy your gas and what size tank you're going to need. That's going to depend on what all you're wanting to do with it. How many appliances are going to be running with it? Are you going to have some type of a backup generator like you see in the picture on the bottom here? If so, you may opt for a little bit bigger tank because that generator, if it is in fact used, it's going to consume not a small amount of propane over a week or two. So something to think about, all you preppers out there. Then we got to be able to get to the site. Probably ought to put this one before that. But anyway, you got to get to the site. You're going to have all-weather access. This is a beautiful example of all-weather access. So think like 80,000-pound concrete trucks, 40 to 50,000-pound dump trucks. These lumber trucks, brick or stone trucks, these are things that are going to be able to get in and out of here at all times of the year. So not two little, pig trails running through the woods. Think high, wide, large access for heavy equipment. If you're crossing a ditch, which both of these pictures are, you're going to have some type of a culvert. This is typically designated by your county precinct. So we can actually help you know who to contact to find out what the culvert dimension needs to be. The diameter, is it 12-inch, 18-inch, 24-inch, two 24-inch culverts? What's, how much water will be moving through here? But basically, it's just a pipe in the ground in that ditch that water can still flow through while you can drive over top of it. So, and believe it or not, even these plastic culverts can hold 80,000-pound concrete trucks, no problem, if properly installed and with good concrete truck drivers that don't drive on the edges of them. That helps immensely. So,
yes.
Got questions about culverts? Let us know. All-weather access, let us know. But this is really, really important to get the house built in a timely manner. One of the things that holds us up the most is somebody skimping on this initial all-weather access. Again, we can bid it for you and get it installed and get it done right. Is it going to be the cheapest? Probably not. Is it going to work when it's rained 5 inches? Yes, it will. So that's the whole point of all-weather access. The last thing you want is to spend a little bit of money, get it done on the cheap, and then end up having to wait a month and a half, 2 months while your driveway dries out so we can get in and out with heavy equipment. So let us help you. Site planning and preparation. So one of the first things we're going to do with you is a site evaluation. We're going to meet you out at the property and help you lay out, kind of obviously you're going to have ideas of where you want the house to go. We're going to give you probably the pros and cons of putting it there. We may tell you, hey, let's move it over here 7 feet. Let's turn it just a little bit here. Do you want it squared with the road? Do you want it squared with your neighbor? Do you want it squared with an existing, outbuilding or shed that you already have there? How do you want it? What view do you want it to have out the back, out the master bedroom, out the family room? Maybe you're like me in my case, I actually prefer my view is out the front. That's where the pretty part of my house is. So I wanted the views out the front. And again, so we'll help you lay that out, where the culvert's going to need to go, if you're going to need one or not, and what kind of site prep still needs to be done. Like our friend in LaGrange asked earlier, if these trees have to come out, can these trees stay? What are the ramifications if they do? And then we're going to give you, like our friend asked earlier, we'll have a list of things for you, but we're going to decide the best placement. We're going to shoot some grades, make sure we can establish and maintain positive drainage all the way around this home. We may recommend raising it a little bit in some cases, particularly if you have a hill that's coming down towards a porch or a garage, because remember, porches and garages actually drop either 2.5 to 3.5 inches, and then they slope away from the home. So what we don't want is have a hill coming down here and a garage that's sloping here and you're running water into your garage. We may advise you to raise it. Hey, let's raise this, a 2x4 or a 2x6 of height so that we can get good effective drainage and you're not fighting water, 3 feet from your house for the rest of your life. And again, this is advice that we have from doing this for 100 years. We've seen how things work. We have all the equipment. We have the lasers to measure it. We can measure how far your electrical and water hookups are going to be. And then, of course, you will leave this meeting with a checklist. Anybody likes checklists? I'm sure this is the meeting for you, because you will leave with a checklist of things to do, and you'll feel so fulfilled as you start to mark the magical things off of your checklist. Dawn, tell us about this site plan. What are we looking at here?
So this is a super, super pretty version that we needed to prepare for a review committee. Usually, if you don't have that in your life, you might not get one that's quite this pretty, but this is what was required by the neighborhood. And so we wanted to show just the basic things that go into a site plan. So it's going to show where your house is going to go. So that's the outline that you see there in the middle, saying this is the house. It's going to show the locations of all the utility hookups, the lines, and the stubs on the house. To show where those things are coming in. It will notate where your septic is going to be placed and what the spray field is for the septic, so you can make sure you don't put anything else near that. It's going to indicate your driveways and your culverts, and then it's also going to have all of those lines that were on your original survey, showing the building lines, that we are within it, that we are not with, that we're in the building lines, we're not crossing any easements with our permanent structure, all of that kind of stuff. It's going to indicate all of that, so you know exactly what's going to happen with your home.
Precisely.
And then
we're going to start pulling stuff out of the ground.
Yeah. We'll start pulling stuff out of the ground. Make sure we've got that area where we're building clear, so we can access. Our goal here is to always preserve as many trees as possible, because we know that's why you bought the property, because it was pretty and had all those trees. So we'll kind of guide you through which ones do need to come out without, what we can leave without jeopardizing the foundation or the health of the remaining trees. Because a lot of times those root systems are connected together. So if you take one down, you might end up losing the other ones anyway. So we'll kind of navigate you through all of those.
And when you're meeting with a tree clearing contractor, you and that contractor need to be very clear on what the signs mean. Do the signs mean to remove the tree, or do the signs mean to leave the tree?
Right.
Have that agreed upon in writing. Maybe some pictures would be helpful. I know some things seem very, very logical and common sense. I'm telling you right now, I have seen people devastated by trees that got pulled out. They did not want pulled out because of just a simple miscommunication.
Yep.
Be crystal clear, and you'll be happy. Don't assume
Good advice.
Everybody is on the same page, ever. Odds are not in your favor. Then we're going to do some groundwork. So if there's any dirt work needed, a lot of our places we build, particularly the North Texas areas, we include a pad allowance is already included. In all the areas that we build, a certain out of level is already included. So depending on what county you're in, a certain amount of drop or slope is included. Obviously, it varies as you go from Aransas County all the way out to Llano County. It's going to be different in those counties because they don't all need the same thing. And then we're going to ensure drainage is what running away from your home all the way around. After all of this site is developed, after all of this months of work, then we will start construction. This is the part where most people start their time frame, and when they're telling you how long does it take to build, they're starting here. Mm-hmm. They're ignoring the entire hour presentation that we just did ahead of this that has it takes up a lot of time.
Yes.
And that's okay. That's why we're here to be transparent, honest, true with you, to help you walk you through every step of the way. Then we'll start construction. So in summary, we all did all these things. Now we're going to
talk about all the things. Yeah. So if you just joined, screen grab.
Oh yeah. You, Asha Benjamin, you just joined. All right. Let's answer questions, shall we?
Yes. Let's see. We have Christian Sumner, who says he is moving with Lisa. I'm glad that she's letting you come with her. Fort Worth, formerly TBD, to Bandera County. We can't wait. That's awesome.
Awesome. Thanks for joining in.
And then we have Luke asking questions about who he can contact at Kent Moore. He's having some trouble getting everything fixed. He goes on to say that he spoke to the builder and has finally gotten a call back to schedule a repairman for May 1st. Okay. And feels the island needs to be repainted, but they're saying that the best we can do is to send them out. So what would we suggest?
Yeah, so I do not recommend repainting the entire island. I don't think you'd be happy with the way it is, because it's probably not going to look the way that you think it is. Without seeing it, Luke, I don't know for sure. I will tell you, the Kentmore guys are very reasonable with this kind of stuff. They've been doing this a long time as well. They are a family-owned company too. They really like having a good reputation. They do a good job on the service side. But the reality is, when you start touching things up, you'll be able to see it because you saw what it was. You can't. It's hard to unsee that what you've seen. I could have the best sheetrocker come in here and fix a patch behind me that Dawn could walk in tomorrow and she's never going to notice it. I'm going to know it's there because I know it was there. Mm-hmm. So that's something else to consider. I'm not wanting to minimize what you got going on because I don't know enough about the story, but get Kentmore out there, show them what you're talking about, show them what the issues are. And then if that doesn't work for you, do reach out to our customer care, our warranty department, and either your builder or the regional construction manager for your area. And we'll take another look at it with Kentmore. Okay,
perfect. We've got Dustin saying, for water, we are considering the 2,500 gallon tanks versus well drilling. Is that acceptable?
Okay. I know 2,500 gallons sounds like a lot, Dustin. I see you said tanks, plural, so maybe you're talking about more than one. That's actually more of a question for the mortgage company. Now, if you're paying cash for the home, man, whatever you want to do. But if you're getting a mortgage, I know a lot of lenders that they may not be okay with that. In a lot of cases, they want it hooked up. Now, it's not 100% across the board. There are some that I've seen people do rainwater catchment systems or big tanks. You just got to be prepared that you may have to pay to have water hauled out there at some point. I mean, if we go through a long enough drought, you're going to be stuck hauling water in from somewhere if you can get it. And that's what the mortgage company gets concerned about, is if they had to, God forbid they wind up with the house, which, by the way, is the last thing they want, is a foreclosure. But if they wind up with it, how hard is that house going to be to resell that doesn't have some type of permanent water hookup going to it? You are also talking about you're going to need some pumps, which you would need with a water well too. So that's not that dissimilar, but some type of pump. And of course you want to be, and I'm sure you've done or are doing your research, but you want to be real careful about getting the tanks that will reduce the bacteria that grows. So the filtration systems, the color of the tanks, the access panels to the tanks, all those things are critically important components when you're talking about the safety of the water that's sitting in there, because it's stagnant water that's sitting in there. So there's some measures that must be taken, and the internet is filled with information. I'm sure some of it's true about how to make that happen. Get an expert out there to help walk you through, and you'll know within 15 minutes talking to somebody if they know what they're talking about. If they aren't mentioning things about contaminants, what they do to prevent those, make more phone calls.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Good advice. Michelle is asking, the prices online in the design centers, is that including only level 1 finishings, or what else is included?
Dawn, what's included?
So the prices online, they are for the included features of the base plan for the plan. So you're talking about finishes. So I'm assuming you mean flooring, cabinetry, those kinds of things. It is going to be the level 1 for items like flooring, and that type of stuff. The one caveat I will say is some of the features, like the wood beams, are specific to plans. So your design center can give you more information about what the included features are. And also in the kitchen cabinets, certain homes actually include some of the stuff that would be a upgrade on others. So things like pull-out trays, trash can pulls, things like that will be different plan by plan. So that's something that your design center can break out for you.
Good advice.
All right. And we've got a friend from YouTube asking, how long is the time frame start to finish now in 2023?
Well, I think it's none of your business. That's what I think it is. Oh, wait, that's our name. So here we go. It varies across the state. So there's really just a few pockets left that have long time frames. So our target right now is about 12 months is what we're really shooting for. We're hitting it in a number of areas. That's about 3 to 4 months of upfront, this stuff we just talked about here, and about 9 months or so of construction. So right about 12 months. I would say a budget about 14 months. You'd be pretty safe. There's a few pockets that I would take exception with that. That'd be like Gillespie County, probably Burnett, and probably Navarro. anywhere kind of way out to the west San Antonio as well. And again, today is April the 11th, 2023. I'd put those out to the 14 to 16 month time frame. Just give yourself a little bit more buffer there. But great question.
All right. And Asha is asking, does Tilson clear the land for you?
Okay, we can, Asha. So when Donald's talking about the prices, like she just mentioned, that those prices that are like on our website, that does not include site clearing, but we can absolutely get you a bid to get site clearing done.
Okay, perfect. We've got Erica asking, we live in Live Oak County on a hill. What does the process look like for someone to come in and survey?
All right, Erica. So you're going to I would call some surveyors, find out what their timeframes are, find out what their prices are. And here's what, everybody get a note and write this down. Boundary survey with corner pins located and all easements shown. That's what you want. And say it just like that. I want a boundary survey with the corner pins located and flagged and all easements shown. So get a bid on that. You're probably looking at anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500. I don't know how big a piece of property it is. If it's, 200 acres, it's going to be more than that. But if it's, if we're talking a 10, 12 acre tract, something like that, that's probably what you're looking at. And that's the process. They come in, they flag all the corners. It takes them a day or two to do all that, to do what we call the field work. Sometimes they can find iron rods. Sometimes they have to set new iron rods. It's really, really, really beneficial to them if you can get a title commitment, which we can help with in Live Oak County. We hook up with a title company, just give them the legal description, your name and legal description of the property, and they can open title, take that title commitment. It costs nothing. Give it to the surveyor. So, because it'll have any and all easements that pertain to that property listed. You want those shown on the survey. Boundary survey with corner pins located, all easements shown.
Okay.
I'm not a realtor. Well, I'm not an active realtor. I'm a realtor in remission.
Okay.
So I'm not giving you real estate advice.
All right. Eric is also asking, we've been told there's heavy sulfur content in the water table here. How would you treat that? I
wouldn't believe it until I had someone test it. I don't believe my neighbors. I love my neighbors because I'm commanded to, but I don't necessarily believe my neighbors. So I would have it tested. First of all, I wouldn't go off just what someone's telling you, because it can vary, Eric. I'm not trying to make light. It's just natural. But I would truly have it tested properly. That way you can get a recommendation of how to treat it. If it truly is heavy sulfur content, there's a number of ways to treat that. You can put a chlorinator on it before it even enters your water tank. That helps sometimes. Sometimes they have what's called like a burp or bleeding device that's on top, kind of a bubble. It allows to capture the sulfur gas and off gas it. But there's a couple of ways to attack it. The first thing I would do is have the water tested. And there's, if there's, I don't know if there's a Culligan nearby, probably not in Live Oak County, but there'll be somebody out there that can test the water and tell you what really the content is. That's the best advice. Perfect. Not because it's my advice, just.
We have Vidana saying we just moved into our Gonzales about 3 weeks ago and we love it. That's awesome.
Wonderful.
That's great. And then Nunya Business, they're in Lee County.
Yep. I'd shoot for that 12-month time frame. Again, a lot of that's going to depend on how much of this stuff you have done already, or how quickly you can mobilize on that. I think you maybe probably Blue Bonnet Electric Co-op. I don't know what their timeframes are necessarily, but those are the things we see that slow the process down. It's not typically our construction stuff. Is your deed squared away? Is your title squared away? Is your survey squared away? Is your site access there? And can you get utilities in a reasonable amount of time? Those are the things that make these timeframes vary more than anything. They are land and site related. Okay, perfect.
We've got Dustin asking, is the deposit required still $1,500 or has it changed?
You got inflation, Dustin. You got a little inflation going on, brother. It's $3,000. You got a $3,000 deposit now.
Yep. And we got Michelle saying our current HVAC system has limits on the type of air filters we use because of the MERV rating. Do the HVAC systems you install have any limitations like that?
Okay, so I believe those are recommendations. I know they'll say that, and they'll say it voids the warranty if you don't use this or that or whatever. What she's talking about is the MERV ratings. If you go to the big box store or online, and the 4-inch thick media filters that we use, they all have a MERV rating. The higher the MERV rating, the more efficient it is. That's true to a degree. There is the law of diminishing returns does come into play on these. You can actually make it too restrictive, and it makes your compressor and your air handler overwork. So I don't know of our the systems that we install, to my knowledge, do not have a limitation on MERV rating. They have a recommendation. I think a MERV of 4 or 6. If someone with Linux wants to come in and correct me on that, you're welcome to do that. But it's my show. But if it's not, you don't have to. I know you don't have to go in and buy the super high efficient ones, and I actually recommend against those.
Yeah, every HVAC person I've spoken to says do not buy the heavy allergen filtrate. Don't, because it's gonna make your system work too hard.
Yeah, if you're really worried about that kind of stuff, it doesn't sound like you are. You're just asking. But if someone on here is truly concerned about those things, there's other things you can do. There's energy recovery ventilators. There's UV lights that can be added if you're really worried. I mean, there's other things you can do without putting a big strain on the HVAC equipment. So that's a great question.
Separate air filtration systems that are designed just for that.
You had the resident allergy expert if you want to ask those questions.
Yep. All right. And then Eric is saying tankless versus traditional water tank. What's your opinion? FYI, we like our water pressure to be strong.
Okay. So if you are electric, I am traditional water tank guy. If you are electric, I am big time traditional water tank guy. If you are, and simply because water has to move quickly through a tankless water heater because there's just no tank. So to heat that water up hot enough with electricity, right, with elements, it's very, very difficult to do and takes a tremendous amount of power. I mean, I'm talking like you may have to up your service from a 200 to a 320 amp service just because of your tankless water heaters. In fact, you will. Gas, I'm good with tankless. Neither of these mostly are going to affect your water pressure that much. Really what's going to affect your water pressure a lot, and I know you're talking about water well, that right there, how many gallons per minute you're getting out of the ground, that's one. And that could be a struggle in Live Oak County. Not necessarily. You could hit good water. The other one is going to be a pressure tank. Having a pressure tank above ground, and I don't know how far away your water well is from your home. I know there's some cases where there's a pressure tank at the well, and if it's 500 feet away, go ahead and put a pressure tank in the house too. And if you think about if you've driven through any small town Texas or really small town America, and you see the big water tank on top, okay, that water tank, and here's your fun Texas fact, it's almost always going to be on the highest elevation of that city. Okay. Why might that be? Okay, in that water tank is not all the water the city ever has, and that's it forevermore, and it gets filled up by the water ferry overnight. The tank itself is a gigantic pressure tank, keeping water pressure, pushing pressure. It's got an air bubble at the top of it, and it's pushing pressure, making sure that everybody has their 50, 60, 70 PSI of water at their faucets. So that's why it's always on the highest part. So water pressure tanks, and then size or diameter of your water line, those will be your biggest factors on a rural property using a water well. Pressure tanks and diameter of your water line, those are going to determine your water pressure more than anything.
Okay, good to know. We've got Dustin saying, I'm very impressed with you guys, and there's not been one question that has stumped either of you. Speaks volumes. Oh, thank you.
Well, just don't go to the fact checkers, Dustin. Just stay here.
It's also why there's two of us, because we can fill each other's knowledge gaps.
Very true. I don't do allergies. They're taking Benadryl.
And then we've got John saying, is the site prep tap fees upfront costs for owners outside of the deposit?
Yes, they are. I say that. So we do include 50 feet of water line, 50 feet of electrical line. That's included already. In some subdivisions, it's 100 or 150 feet of those. So I shouldn't say it's all, but yeah, for the tap fees for sure, those are excluded. And then site prep, like clearing trees is not included. But if the site doesn't have trees on it, are out of level in those, that is included. So it just varies from county to county how much slope or out of level is included. Great question.
Okay, awesome. That is the last question I see.
Okay. thank you all for this and for watching.
So
For those
I'll
of you
put
who
our
did
little
join
tour
late,
back up.
there you go. Give it to it, Dawn.
So we are really excited. Our model in San Marcos, the Palo Duro, we are having a behind the sheetrock seminar where you will be out there with the VP of construction. He is going to take you through the model and show you all of the bones. It's exactly what it says. It's behind the sheetrock. So before we put the sheetrock up, so you can take a look at all the electrical, all the plumbing, all the framing, and he's going to explain why we do things the way we do. Because really the quality of the house is in the stuff that you can't see when you're walking through a beautiful model. So we wanted to take this opportunity to show it to you guys. So we have 2 sessions that day, one at 11 and one at 2. And if you scan that QR code, go to the link, you can sign up for one of those spots and get yourself registered. So super, super excited about that. I know we've been waiting a long time for the Palo Duro, and it's beautiful, beautiful model.
Yeah, I cannot wait to have that model there. I think the week after that is Waco.
Waco is having a construction seminar, so you can kind of go and see where their models are. Justin Ordino, our SVP of construction, will be out there. He's going to do the typical construction presentation,
Right,
but then we can also walk you through the models in whatever state they are. The Palo Duro, we actually are stopping construction and making sure that it's good for large numbers of people to go through. Waco, it's more of a like, okay, let's put on a hard hat and see what we got kind of situation.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, that's what's happening. But yeah, super, super exciting. And
Awesome.
Waco's another good one that you can see because some of the models have floors, some of them don't. So it kind of shows you what happens once we start putting the finishes in, because they all have their cabinets. When I was there last week, 2 of the 3 had their countertops. We were still waiting on the countertops for the Angelina. The Tampico had tile flooring in, but no other flooring. And we're getting there. So that's kind of a neat thing to go and look at as well.
Yeah. All right.
And Janet Sharon, she was at the Behind the Sheetrock when we did it in Waco, and it was super fun. And I remember you too. I remember meeting you. It's awesome.
So thank you all for joining us. Of course, the education does not have to end here. The whole point we do this, of course, is to answer your questions. So we're glad you came in and did that. Also, though, we've got a whole bunch of these on our YouTube channel. We've got a whole bunch. They're on our website. A website has a ton of information. We have new home specialists standing by to schedule appointments and answer high-level questions. All 12 of our design centers are open 7 days a week to answer all of your questions. Set an appointment with a consultant. You're wanting to make changes or wanting to get pricing on changes or custom options, or moving this kitchen over here and adding 2 feet there and pulling the dishwasher area here. That's what they're there for. That's what they are really, really good at doing, walking you through these site-specific things that we talked about today. Hey, in this county, you're going to need to know this. In this county, the culvert dimension is going to have to be this. In that precinct, here's who you call. Here's how you get a hold of this surveyor. Here's the title company we use. That is what they're there for. They're great resources for that. So thank you for jumping on here. Dawn, thanks for preparing this. Thanks for updating it. Very clean, very nice. Let's see, Erica. Did Erica have a comment? We've had Erica Tynan.
Oh yeah, Erica says we're very excited to get our process started with you guys, and thank you for answering our questions. Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you tuning in.
That's right. Thanks for coming in. Yeah. So thank you everyone for watching these. Again, please go. We have the Instagram page, Facebook page, YouTube channel, website, 12 design center locations. And yeah, we love to stop in, have a cup of coffee and bottle of water with us, and we'll answer any questions that you have. We want to be sure that, just like we say on this show, you have every single piece of information you need to make the right decision for you and your family when it comes to building a home on your land. So with that, we hope these are genuinely helpful for you guys. We'll take any feedback you want, and we genuinely soon hope to make you part of the Tilson family. We'll talk to y'all later.
Bye, everybody.